This is old, bad whiskey. So old, in fact, that it was completely rejected during the blending process. Today, I'm going to throw this into a pot still and see what happens. Maybe we can revive it. We can rescue it. Maybe, just maybe, it'll turn into something absolutely beautiful. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, and this is STLLIT, and that, like I said in the intro, is bad whiskey. This is the leftovers from the blending process of the peated Irish whiskey. Check that out up here if you want to. This is not just whiskey that's okay or even kind of good, but it didn't fit in the blend. Most of this, to about here, was just straight up bad. It is way, way past its due date in terms of I let it age for too long. It's kind of weak and watery. The ABVs drops down below 40% on average. It's got a little bit acidic. It feels just flabby and empty and just not enjoyable to drink whatsoever. There is a little bit of good whiskey that just didn't quite fit the blend in here, about this much. So maybe, I don't know, like 8% of it or something. But like I said in the intro, guys, the idea is just to literally throw this into a pot still and see what happens. Can we rescue it? I don't know. Can we turn it into something different? I don't know. I've never re-distilled whiskey before, so this is going to be quite interesting. Once the pot still's up and running and we've got a little bit of time to talk, what I would like to do is answer and respond to a few questions and comments that were left on the Peated Irish video, and then we'll get into tasting it and see what we have. Dear God, I have to say that I love using this thing. No, it's not sponsored. Still Spirits don't even know I'm making this video yet. But honestly, man, like, how freaking awesome is it just to be able to throw everything in the pot, not have to worry about water, not have to worry about gas like my little mini pot still. Dude, it's an absolute joy to use. And I could see myself doing, you know, like if I wasn't making videos all the time, especially, I could make a bottle of gin right on the dining room table or something where, you know, especially using gas could turn into a really hairy situation pretty quickly. Speaking of hairy situations, this video is brought to you by Manscaped and their Lawnmower 4.0, their 4th generation electric waterproof trimmer with skin safe technology that will drastically reduce nicks and cuts. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm still trying to decide exactly how to show this thing off without, you know, exposing my junk on YouTube. Will you guys shut up? I'm trying to... Oh. Turns out it's pretty freaking hard to chase a lamb with a camera in one hand and a trimmer in the other, but the Lawnmower 4.0 does have some very cool upgrades. Check it out. There's no hole for a charging port, and that's because it's got fully wireless charging. Pretty sweet. It also has a couple of LEDs on the front to indicate just how much juice it's got left. It also has a very cool travel lock feature. Pressing the button on the front 3 times will lock it out completely. It will not turn on until you unlock it again. So use the code STLLIT at manscaped.com to get 20% off, free shipping, and 2 free gifts. So I'm still waiting for this thing to heat up, so I literally have no idea what's going to happen now. And if you guys feel like playing along at home, hit the pause button on the video right now, drop a comment in the comment section down below, and let me know, let everyone else know, what you think this is going to turn out like. Is it going to taste like the White Dog of the Spirit? Is it going to taste like just this shittiness, but, you know, condensed? Or is it going to taste more like the nice version of the aged Spirit, or something completely different? Honestly, I don't know. I'm hoping that it's going to be almost like Bacardi rum. So Bacardi is, as I understand it anyway, aged on oak and then filtered to remove the color. It pretty much tastes like an aged rum, but it's white. And that's what, I mean, that would be the dream result, right? That'd be awesome. Could be a whole new category of whiskey, not, you know, like maybe not a commercial category, but in terms of something interesting for home distillers to make at the very least. I just don't know. I don't think it's just going to taste like the White Dog Spirit, because the Spirit has literally gone through chemical changes since it was a White Dog. Just a quick note too, guys, that the still doesn't have any copper in it, but for the purposes of this experiment, I decided to throw some copper mesh into the little gin basket as well, just in case. Anyway, guys, let's go through some of the comments from the Irish whiskey blending video that kicked all of this off. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry I don't get to type out responses to comments very often anymore. And when I do, it's kind of like a drop in the bucket. Just know that I really do appreciate the comments, and I really do read through them because, I don't know, it keeps me in touch with what you guys want. And hopefully it keeps my head out of my ass a little bit as well. Anyway, should we go through some of those comments? So first of all, there was a bunch of you that said, don't be an idiot, don't waste it, re-distill it and see what happens. I mean, like I said, I listened to you guys. The idea had crossed my mind when I was doing that video, but yeah, I was intrigued to see what you guys had to say. There was a few people saying too, where is it? Yeah, things like there's no such thing as bad whiskey. Just, you know, stick it in Coke and drink it like that. This stuff was pretty freaking bad, guys. Pretty bad by itself. Something that really interesting came up, and this is a really solid criticism of what I did that I have to agree with, which was basically how on earth did I age that spirit for 2 years and then only spend that small amount of time deciding what the blend was going to be. Half of me completely agrees with you. I felt guilty about that while I was blending it. I knew I should have taken a little bit more time, but I rushed it to get the content sorted on deadline. But just keep in mind too that this is YouTube and it's video editing, and it's kind of like the whole thing of you never see Batman poop because that's boring. They cut it out. That was actually over 2 days, but yeah, I should have, you're right, I should have taken some more time. There's a bunch of people asking too, how on earth am I getting Angel's Share in a sealed jar? So a couple of things here. First of all, the original gaskets look like this. These are, I guess, the silicone. I don't entirely trust them, so I wrap them in plumber's tape, PTFE. If I wrap them really perfectly, it gets pretty close to watertight or airtight seal, but never quite. And if I do it quickly, then, you know, the more roughly I wrap it, the less close it is to being airtight. The little springs we add a little bit on the jars over time. To be honest, I don't mind that. I like there being a very small amount of gas exchange in and out of the jar. I think, perhaps incorrectly, that sort of mimics the micro-oxidation through a barrel. I like there being a little bit of oxygen going in there. So yeah, part of the reason that they perhaps went too far is I wasn't monitoring those gaskets as closely as I could have been. And another part is probably that I let the jars there was just too much headspace in them. I just got lazy. You know, I was sampling down to that level and I was like, it tastes all right, I'll just leave it for another month, and then forgot about it for ages. So people were commenting on that. People were commenting on that as well. And yeah, that's a fair criticism of what I was doing. Also a bunch of comments saying, just pull the oak, seal it up, let it sit for a while, you know, give it a year and see what happens. In my experience, doing that doesn't fix the problem that this has. So this was, the ABV had dropped low, it had sort of I don't quite know how to describe it, and I shouldn't describe it in terms of what happened. I should describe it in terms of what it tasted like. It tasted flat. It tasted like you leave whiskey in a cup overnight and you come back to it the next day and it kind of smells okay, but when you drink it, it's just kind of empty. And that to me is the opposite of what you want time to fix. If you over oak and the whiskey is trying to fight you, it's kind of spicy and peppery and astringent and tannic, and all of those things have been pulled out of the oak too much, pulling a bunch of oak out and letting it sit for a long time might fix that problem. In my experience, I'm not saying this is a be-all, end-all, and that's the way it is or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing at all. In my experience, those are the problems. Those are the over-aging problems that just time will fix. So I decided not to go that route with this one. Anyway, this is threatening to start dripping at any point in time, so let's carry on with distilling this stuff and see what we get. All right, guys, distillation is done. We have 600 mils that came off the still. Honestly, that is not as much as I thought it would be, to be perfectly honest, but there you have it. That is at 80%. We took that much heads. I haven't measured it, I just did it by taste. And the tails, I cut it at the tails. It got past smoke. There's not a heap of smoke in there, but there is definitely some living down there in the bottom end of the distillation. I cut it because it got to a point where it was just kind of empty and flat and watery and starting to taste very much like this, what went into it. So that's where we are, guys. Now, I have a bunch of things lined up on the table that I want to taste through with you. We have this stuff exactly straight as it is out of the pot at 80%. The same stuff proofed down to 45%. This is the stuff that went into the pot to start with, so the bad whiskey that we started with. And this is the blended version of the same whiskey. So it's the same mash, the same distillation, but different barrels, I guess is the easiest way to think of it. Anyway, we're gonna go through all of this in just a second, but first I need to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you so much, Patreons. You guys let me do what I do, and one of you, you know who you are. I don't want to call you out in case you know, privacy and all of that. But one of you guys was talking to me a bunch about experiments like this. And I know this isn't quite what you wanted to do, but maybe it's a proof of concept, and maybe we can get onto that later on. So let's get stuck in. Let's taste the proof down, the 40% version first, shall we? So the nose is not a new whiskey. I'll tell you that right now. It is weird. And when I say weird, I don't mean good, I don't mean bad. It's not a value judgment, it's just not what I'm expecting when I put my nose in something that's come off a still. That, like, literally the meaning of weird. It's odd to me. It has a lot of the apple and fruit characteristics from the aged good blend, which is intriguing to me. And those to me would suggest, and I'm no chemist, no expert on this kind of thing, but I'm guessing those are the esters that form over time. It's the complex stuff that you don't get in young whiskey that shows up in older whiskey. And for this, it's coming across like apple, a little bit of peach, but it's very, very delicate, and it's not masked by, the dusty wood that this one has. It's not entirely dissimilar to the bad whiskey on the nose. This has the very, very faint, I don't know how else to describe it. It's not vinegar. It's not vinegar, but it's kind of acidic. It smells like, just like old whiskey, man. But there are those fun notes in there as well. They're just sort of hidden under that weirdness sitting on top. So far, we're calling this a success, I have to say. Oh, I guess I should smell this straight at 80%. Very similar to this, it's just not opened up as much. If anything, actually, I'm getting a little bit more of the smoke on this one. There is smoke in this, but it's buried way down in there. On the nose, honestly, you could almost expect this to be something distilled from fruit. Anyway. Okay. Wow, odd, weird. I think this needs some time to proof down. And hold on, let me try this first. Yeah, definitely. So the stuff that's at 80% tastes more cohesive, less jaggy, less rough, smoother than the stuff at 45%. So I think this needs a little bit of time to chill and mellow. But man, once again, this does not taste like new make. It has a roundness and a completeness to it in terms of the whiskey side of things. But what it doesn't have is any of the big wood influences in terms of the dusty oak or the barrel candy or the astringency or the bitterness or the pepper. I get none of that. What's really shining through with both of these is the sweet shortbread and apple kind of combination, which is really, really interesting. And this one, hold on, I actually haven't tasted this one again yet. Oh yeah, I'm happy with that, man. I really am. Oh, this turned out good. This has the same flavor, but they get overtaken by the barrel finish at the end. There is a dark barrel, woody, dusty flavor that comes up on the end. And to be honest, it's a little bit more like a bourbon finish, but it takes over and it turns into those flavors that finish. And these two, it just kind of fades away. Honestly, not unlike some of the white barrel-aged rums like Bacardi that I talked about in the beginning. So it has the roundness of an aged spirit. It has the impression of sweetness from an aged spirit. It has the complexity of flavor from an aged spirit. It has the sharpness, the spirit shininess knocked off like an aged spirit, but it doesn't have the specific wood flavors. Even though everything that I just described is kind of it's like a wood flavor in that it comes from the interaction with wood, if that makes sense. This is about as good a result as I could have expected. Now, before people get carried away, I need to keep doing this more often. I am talking about all of these positive things in terms of this being a test and thinking about what it could mean in the future. It's not in and of itself necessarily a complete and wonderful spirit. And also, I don't really have a category to put it in my brain. I don't have anything to compare it to in terms of what it should taste like or what it potentially could taste like. So honestly, I just don't know. So don't hear this and think that I'm saying that this is amazing and everyone should do it. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the stuff that was in this jar was unusable as it is. It wasn't nice. But we've rescued it in some description. I could, honestly, throw some oak in it again and see what happens. And I tend to do that a lot on the channel because it's fun to experiment. But in this case, you know what? I think I'm just going to keep it white and drink it like this. Anyway, guys, if you have done something similar, by all means, please let us know in the comments section down below. I think it would be very, very interesting to hear, what you started with in terms of the type of spirit. So whether it was a peated whiskey or a bourbon or a whatever, like a brandy that over oaked. And then what you ended up with in the end in terms of the flavors that came out of it. I think that'd be pretty cool, and especially for other people watching to have other data points to check out down in the comment section below. Anyway, guys, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Keep on chasing the craft. See ya.